I'm going to talk to Joanna Kyriazis, who's a senior policy analyst with Clean Energy Canada, about a recent announcement from the international firm BASF. They're putting a battery plant, a part of a battery plant in Quebec. And before we get to that conversation, I just want to encourage you to sign up for our Connect on social media if you haven't already. There's no reason why I should annoy the rest of Canada and not you. Joanna, welcome to the interview.
Thanks, Markham. Nice to be here.
What is BASF doing in Quebec?
So today we learned that BASF, which is, as you said, global chemicals company, announced that it secured a site in Quebec where it will bring cathode production. So that is one of the key components that goes into batteries that eventually go into electric vehicles. So this is a really big deal for Quebec and for Canada.
Now, we've talked about critical minerals being an important role that Canada can play in battery production. We've had a couple of small battery plants announced. Lion Electric, for instance, in Quebec has got a small plant. Is this part of the broader strategy of building out a battery industry in Canada?
Yeah, so the federal government has been quite clear in its commitment to build an end-to-end battery supply chain in Canada, right? It refers to that approach as its mines to mobility approach. And just as you say, you know, we've sort of got the two bookends of the supply chain going in Canada. We've got the metals and minerals that go into EVs and batteries, and then we've landed some battery module production and actually some EV manufacturing on that other side of the supply chain. But there are some key stages in between those two poles, namely material refining and then battery components. And those are big gaps for Canada right now. So today's announcement shows that we're finally taking steps to fill some of those key gaps in the midstream part of that battery supply chain.
Now, in terms of the battery components, is this something that Canada can attract investment in, to build these plants, or is it something that can be homegrown?
Well, so BASF is a global player. It seems there's sort of two approaches that we can take to building our battery supply chain. One is attract foreign direct investment from these major players like BASF or LG Chem. And then the other is to build up Canadian startups like Stromvolt, for instance, is an Ontario-based battery cell manufacturing company, which is one of the two announcements that you were mentioning of bringing battery cell production to Quebec. So I think it's important to play both of those cards, and especially right now, we need to just get some activity going in those midstream portions of Canada's battery supply chain, get the technical know-how, get the investment, get some buyers for the upstream metals and minerals, and some suppliers for those downstream batteries and EVs.
Now, BASF says that it wants to set up an integrated closed loop battery materials ecosystem. What the heck is that?
Well, I'll try my best to explain. So one flag in the future of the battery industry is that we are expecting to see some potential raw material supply crunches in the next 5 to 10 years. And that's partially because EV demand and battery demand is ramping up rapidly. And then it's also because mining projects take quite a long time to come online. I think it's typically 5 to 10 years from a project being announced to those metals and minerals being produced. And so various players on the battery supply chain are looking for ways to close the loop and recycle as much of that battery material as they can at different parts of the supply chain. So I think a lot of people think about recycling when EVs come to the end of their lives, the batteries are at the end of their lives, they've got nowhere else to go. And we've got leading Canadian companies who figured out how to recover up to 95% of the valuable materials from those end of life batteries. But there's other parts along the supply chain where you can use recycling too, like battery cell manufacturing, right? It's not an 100% efficient process. So there's going to be some scraps coming out of those facilities. Same goes with cathode manufacturing. And so to have recycling facilities clustered with some of these other industrial processes is just a great idea. It increases efficiency, captures as much of those raw material or valuable battery materials, and helps to offset the need for new supply coming out of the ground.
Right, Joanna, thank you very much. I always appreciate your insights.
Thanks so much for having me.